They have now decided that you have 30 seconds from the tee, the drop zone, and inside circle 2. Okay? 45 seconds for all other throws. Now, they've also changed the wording here. It used to say determine a lie. Like your time starts when you've determined a lie. Apparently, people don't know what determine a lie means, so they've changed it to address the lie. Yuli, you're in these player meetings. Robert literally said that players said that address the lie makes a lot more sense than determines a lie. Please explain to me the difference between determining a lie and addressing a lie. Because apparently Robert Leonard says that the players' council, the players have told him that changing it to address a lie, all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and everyone now, oh, I know when you address a lie.
Yeah, I think it's when you mark your disc or you stand behind your lie.
You give examples if you'd like.
Yeah. If you go up and you're behind your disc and you take a look forward, that's probably addressing your lie.
Now, what if I do that while you're in the process?
You're not allowed to.
Of throwing.
You're not allowed to. You gotta watch me. Yeah, you gotta watch me.
I have to watch it. I can't address my lie too soon.
But it's not just that. He said it's also it's marking your lie, placing a supporting point behind your lie, doing a pre-shot routine, and now we get fun. Using a rangefinder counts as addressing your lie. Checking the wind counts as addressing your lie, and clearing out the ground of obstacles counts as addressing your lie.
So what this is?
Okay, so all right. So I'm in these council meetings. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, clearing your lie of sticks has never been talked to about ever. So what's happening is we're talking about these rules. Okay, they get sent to the PDGA. The PDGA looks at it and then adds their little a bit of flavor in there. Because I've never heard of taking sticks away from my lie as being addressed, or checking the wind, because I can check the wind from the tee. Am I addressing my whole lie all the way down the fairway? Am I like that's? Yeah, I don't know. That's not something that I would ever write off on in a meeting.
I don't hate the idea that they're saying, hey, if you have inside a circle 2 putt, if you have a tee shot, if you have a drop zone shot, only 30 seconds. Now, that doesn't change anything because that's literally what the rule was prior. And what they did do, which is something we've talked about, is like, hey, listen, sometimes you're off the fairway. Sometimes you have no idea what gaps you have over there. Sometimes it takes you 15 seconds to walk in to see your disc, another 15 seconds to walk back out to see, like, okay, where should I lay up? Like, it's not always apples to apples. And so they have said, all right, we'll give you 45 seconds. So you get a little bit extra time for all other shots. Then they did one of the stupidest things, and this goes back to when I think this is close in line with the PDGA coming after me for doing their job and renting out the driving range at Worlds. This is right in line with one of the dumbest things the PDGA has done. Time extensions. The fact that we are now making it to where rounds are going to take even longer is insane. The fact that now you can say time, and how long are the time extensions? Are they 45 seconds?
30
seconds. Okay. So the fact that you now can have 45 seconds and then call a time extension, and now you have over a minute. One, that's going to obviously slow down pace of play. But the reasoning for this, I think, is the funniest reasoning of all time. So, Yuli, each player gets two time extensions per round. Okay. You get 2 time extensions per round. If you go over your time, so let's say you have a circle 2 putt and you go over 30 seconds, I have to go up to you and say, Yuli, you didn't call it, but you're using one of your time extensions there. Okay. Now, the players are obligated to do that, by the way. Okay. The funniest thing, Yuli, is this. This rule was changed solely because the players on the council, and I'm hoping this is not you, Yuli, or you have explained to do. They're saying that they feel more comfortable calling time violations on card mates than calling whatever we had before, like calling like a time violation, time extension. So the way the rule was written and the way they changed the rule is because players now feel more comfortable saying, hey, Yuli, that's going to be a time extension. They feel more comfortable doing that than before just telling someone, hey, you took too long. That's a time violation. Now, the reason why this is so dumb, Yuli, is not only the fact that if you go over your time extension, okay, so let's say you say time extension and you go over the time extension. So now instead of throwing your disc in 1 minute and 15 seconds, you throw your disc in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Do you know what happens? You get a little slap on the wrist, Yuli. You get a warning. So not only did they make it to where you can extend your time with the time extension, they also made it to where if you go even farther over that time extension, you get a warning. You have to do that twice for anything of consequence to happen. And what do we know about rules, Yuli? We know when players know, hey, I can do this and it has no effect on me, it's not going to change anything, I'm going to do it up to that line. I'm going to push the boundary as much as possible. So how many people are going to do this? How many people are going to do this knowing at the end of the day, like, oh, I don't even have to call time extension. If I go over my time, someone else has to call it all for me. And then if I go over that, it's a warning. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. This is what makes it the stupidest thing the PGA has ever done. These players that are claiming they feel more comfortable calling a time extension, guess what happens when you call a second time extension on that person? That means the third time, guess what you have to do? The same thing you weren't comfortable doing in the first place. So nothing has been solved here. All you're doing is you're kicking a rock, or whatever that saying is. Gary, help me. Kicking a rock down the street. What is that saying? Kicking the bucket, kicking the can. You're kicking great. You're kicking the can down the street. You're just prolonging the weirdness, the awkwardness that all you little soft pro players out there don't want to hurt any of your van buddies' friends, that you don't want to call them of, hey, bro, you're playing super slow. You don't want to do that. So all you do now is you go time extension, and now you're back right on square one. You're going to have to make that awkward thing. Nothing has been solved. And here's the big kicker of all of it. PDGA, do your job. If you see a problem with pace of play, if you see a problem with players not calling it on other players, guess what you should do? Stop making more rules that players have to inflict on other players. How about you do your job? How about you get in a golf cart? How about you get in a Segway? How about you drive around the course and say, hey, there's a 2-hole gap here. Someone's playing slow. Let's go there and see what's going on. Stop making it on the players. What do you want me to do, PJ? Do you really want me to pull my cell phone out every single time someone is going to throw and start looking at the clock? And then when someone says time extension, do I need to pull my phone out again and make sure they don't go over 45 seconds? Do you know how dumb it is already that pros are walking down fairways looking at the scores on their phone? It's extremely dumb. It looks really, really bad. Now we're going to have everyone just on their phones with the clock running, rolling at all times, because how am I supposed to call time extensions? How am I supposed to call time violations if I don't have my watch going? This makes no sense. PDGA, do your job. You're getting paid. Do your job.
There's going to be a stopwatch in every player's pack for the pros from now on. That's how it's going to work. But the other crazy part is if you have to call the time extension on a player, there are so many players out there who are going to be like, well, now I have to go through my process again because you've interrupted my focus. It's just it's so silly. But the one thing I want to add on to what you said, Brodie, about how they said that they thought this was going to make it easier to call this, is the exact quote that Robert said was that all but one person on the Players Council said that this would make them more comfortable calling time violations and that they would be the champions of the rule and call it themselves. So that's interesting to me.
Okay,
Well,
so
they'll call it time violation, but they won't call the third one that actually matters.
I think we got to look at it on a bigger perspective, because you're looking at it in a very broad state that this is something that's going to happen all the time, and that's just not the case. It doesn't happen all the time. We don't run into these situations all the time, and that's just the way that it is. Okay, there's certain players that actually abuse the time violation all the time, and they still don't get called. The only ones that get called are by the officials anyway, so it is a big problem to where nobody's calling it. How many players have you called, Brodie, on a time violation, and you see speed of play and it's your biggest thing? And how many people have you ever called being like, hey, you got to speed it up, this is a warning? Probably 1, 2.
Yeah, probably like 2 to 3.
Okay, 2 to 3 in all the rounds that you do it. So it's, like I said, it's a very broad thing. And how many times have you seen the violation happen?
So the reason why I don't really call it that often is because a lot of times I am one of the fastest players on tour. So we're oftentimes waiting we normally catch the card in front of us. So we're waiting because of, even if I'm playing with a slow player, I kind of do it. Now, my thoughts, my thoughts on the rule, Yuli. I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb that you have a very difficult shot. You have a putt to make the cut. I think it's very dumb for me to jump in and say, Yuli, you went over 30 seconds. I think that's very dumb. That's why I don't do it unless it's really, really bad. But
it's still a problem. If you're not calling it, it's a rule. It's a problem. I don't care if you like it or you don't.
If you're not calling it and you're you have a 2-hole gap,
you're thinking of it in a
problem.
Yeah, you're thinking of it in a broad state of like, it's not really a big deal. I don't call it because we catch the people in front of us, but that's part of the problem. You still don't call it. I actually like the time extension. Okay, I like the time extension because I do think there's times when I'm in the woods and I need to take longer and I feel bad and I have to rush a shot, and I should be able to have more time.
Yeah.
Now I've never been called on a time violation ever in my life, and for sure I've gone over. But I think like there's unwritten rules. Oh, well, he's not a guy that takes so long. Like, I'm not going to call him on this time.
That's going to happen here too, though. That's what I'm saying. This isn't solve the problem, Yuli. That's the thing. Is there's a pace of play problem?
No, it doesn't solve a problem. Why like this? Now you think a certain way. Okay, you think a certain way,
a sane way.
Sure, however you want to word it, you think that way. I know for a fact that if everybody on the board says this will make them more comfortable to say, hey, time violation, and call something, then that right there in that instance means that you're getting farther. You're saying it's kicking the can. I don't care. You're one of no. Let me finish. So there's you and one other person on the entire board that says, no, this is ridiculous. It won't work. But then there are other people that outnumber you saying, for sure, it'll make me call it. And I will actually do it, which means that there's a broader and more people that are actually going to be more comfortable not stroking somebody. Because here's the next part about it. I don't want to stroke anybody. You just said, I caught the card in front of us. It's not my place. I don't want to stroke anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to give any.
Of course.
Okay, so we agree across the entire board. But there's still situations where other people, not myself, okay, so this is coming from somebody who thinks very much like you, but I have to go and I have to think like somebody else, and I have to be like, okay, so why aren't they calling it when they absolutely have to? Well, it's because they don't want confrontation.
Yeah.
They don't want it. By them not giving them a stroke, and I want the time extension for those situations, okay? I don't think the time extension is probably ever going to be used in different situations unless it's a windy putt, which I would love a time extension when I get a 90-mile-an-hour headwind all of a sudden and the nice guy took my wind because he actually went over his time and took whatever that nice little calm breeze was. I would like to be able to have a beneficial wind for myself. I love the time extension as far as that goes. But as far as making it easier for other people to call, I think 100 billion% this makes it easier easier for the rest of the field to call because you're not stroking somebody. And you're saying it's a slap on the wrist?
Let me rebuttal.
Yes.
Let me rebuttal here. Let me rebuttal. First off, you mentioned that, if people on this board are claiming that this is going to make them call it more, right, then it's probably a good thing. These are the same people, Yuli, too, that also claim that addressing a lie is way better than determining a lie. These are the same people. So I don't know how trustworthy these people are. Secondly,
I would think that I'm pretty trustworthy when it comes to getting things done.
We can agree that right there, addressing a lie and determining a lie, should not be like this light bulb thing. But my point being is, I think what you're missing is they're eventually going to have to make that call. So that's what I'm saying is, maybe that first time violation's easier. Maybe that second time violation's easier. The third one, you're stroking.
Your hypothetical is coming to the same people. It's the same 4 people who violate the time. This is going to benefit the rest of the field. Okay. Your hypothetical is the same people who are taking that time anyway. They're only going to get called on it. It's not like we have a huge problem of people taking 2 minutes to throw a shot. It's the same guys. We all play at a certain pace for the most part. It's not as far as somebody taking over a minute to throw every single shot. That's not a problem that we have on the tour. It isn't. It's the same guys.
It's a handful of people.
It's a handful of people.
More and more every year, though. It's more and more every year.
I disagree. I disagree with that. I think it's the same guys. I think
but I'm saying there's more. I think more people are coming on tour that are playing slow. There's definitely more people right now playing slow. I mean, think about it.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem that
it is a problem. Pace of play is really bad.
Pace of play, it's not because people are taking so much time. It's people meandering around and doing other things and playing with their thing and doing this and blah, 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 blah.
That's my point.
That's not your point.
My point is this was a stupid rule. My point is they're saying that they think this is going to solve pace of play. That is why they're doing this.
I don't think so. I think that this is going to solve somebody sitting over a puck for a minute.
Why does it matter?
That's the problem.
If pace of play isn't a problem, Yuli, why is it a problem with someone sitting over a putt for a minute? If pace of play is not a problem,
what are you talking about? Like they're two completely different things, Brodie.
A
group playing slow and meandering around the fairway and looking at their disc and trying to choose 35 discs is 100% different than somebody sitting behind their lie and taking a minute to throw a shot. With the same disc in their hand.
But if that person is sprinting to their disc and doing all this stuff, even though they're sitting behind their disc for a minute, they are still keeping up with the card in front of them. What is the problem with them doing that? That's my whole thing.
I'm in on that. But the
problem is pace of play. That's what they're trying to fix with this rule. Because it doesn't matter
I don't think it is. I don't think it's I think it's a rules violation in a 30-second mark, and it's not a pace of play. There's plenty of other reasons why we have foursomes. Like the round's going to take freaking forever.
Why do we have
two different problems, dude?
Why do we have 30 seconds though? Why do they have a rule that you have to throw in 30 seconds? Why don't they just make it so you can throw whenever you want?
I would love that. I personally said I would love a minute. Give everybody a minute. I would love a minute. The problem is I think personally that the problem is the meandering down the fairway and not getting to your line.
I agree with you.
That's part of the issue. Where the enforcement of the rule creates its own problem. Is how are you going to enforce these violations, the rule may be a good one, but how do you enforce them in a way that doesn't create more problems? Because now players have to be more attentive to other players' shots and the time it takes. So in the process of enforcing it, will that create will it wash itself?
I think this is a attempt to stop the cupcakes and the Gannon Burrs from putting for over a minute. Okay. That's what the problem is, because when you're watching on camera and you watch these guys do 37 pump fakes, or Gannon Burr do 37 pump fakes right in front of his lie, and wait for a correct win and all these things. That's not fun to watch. That's what they're trying to fix. It's when you say pace of play and a whole, there's other things that create backups. It's not this guy waiting on his lie, because really it's a rules violation to me when a guy sits over his putt for a minute to make a putt. That's benefiting him against the field. Meandering down the fairway and doing this lottie-dottie bull crap is not benefiting him, in my opinion. That's just making things slow, if that makes sense.